In light of the violent takedown of a high school teenager by a school police officer in South Carolina, there's new attention now on the role of campus police. For more, we're joined live on the KCBS Ring Central Newsline by Lisa Thurau, Executive Director of Strategies for Youth, an organization that trains school officers around the country. Ms. Thurau, this trend of putting cops on school campuses started in the early 90s. Can you give us a quick overview on how it's progressed and how it's been working out?
Sure. In the early 1990s, the federal government, through the U.S. Department of Justice Community-Oriented Policing Services Office, provided millions of dollars to improve school safety through the implementation of school resource officers programs across the country. And around 2003, the money was cut under the Bush administration. And with recent school shootings, you're seeing an increasing number of schools asking for school resource officers or police departments offering to put municipal police department officers in their schools. And so I think the problem has been that while the feds provided the money, they didn't require basic precautions or conditions or training. And we see these terrible problems at times, like we saw in South Carolina, when these two worlds collide.
Well, yeah, so let's talk about that a bit. Your organization's been involved in training SROs around the country. What is the job of a cop on a school campus?
Well, unfortunately, we leave this in every state to be defined by each school district. Some states do more than others to characterize what they see as that role, and some state legislatures also say what the role is. They say that some behaviors on campus are immediately arrestable offenses. But organizations like the National Association of School Resource Officers strongly urge a three-part role, one of counseling, one of law enforcement, and one of general safety education. And that is probably the best approach. We see too often that officers are pulled in to do disciplinary matters, just like they were in the South Carolina school. And there are really serious implications for that. First, students don't respect their teachers or their school administrators if they're always calling police to do their work for them. And even school resource officers I've spoken with say, that's not our job, that's not our duty, and it reduces our esteem in the eyes of youth.
And particularly because one of the stated reasons in many towns for the SRO being there is to provide a positive image of police to youth, to give to break down the barriers.
You're absolutely right. And so I find that school administrators and teachers together often put school resource officers in an impossible position because they dump all the kids they don't want to deal with on the officers and say, go be the heavy. Now, if you want to foster positive relationships, you don't turn the SRO into the heavy punishment person. You don't ask them to use force or the threat of arrest to correct behavior. And that's all too often what we're seeing happen, and oddly enough, it leads to escalation of incidents. I also think we really, as a nation, have to think very carefully about what we want officers to do in these situations. We just kind of let it happen, but we see that officers in police academies are not trained very much on how to deal with adolescents. And so you put someone who's poorly trained, in California, for instance, they get 3 hours of training on how to work with adolescents, and it's all law. It's nothing about communication or mental health or how to de-escalate situations. You put these poorly trained officers into school situations where they've never been trained to work, and you don't fully integrate them into teamwork or into discipline policies, and no wonder we see these things happening.
Lisa Thurau, thank you for your time this morning. Ms. Thurau is the Executive Director of Strategies for Youth, an organization that trains school officers all around the country.
It's 9:36 now at KCBS.